Hi everybody, it's Anne with Art on the Creek, and today what I want to go over is the difference between hot press and cold press watercolor paper. This is the Meeden paper. It comes in many different sizes and it also comes in a rough press texture. I know that a lot of you are looking at a good, affordable 100% cotton watercolor paper, and I can recommend this one. I really like it. Meeden was kind enough to send these to me as a gift, so I'm very happy to share them with you here today. I thought what we could do with this today is have some fun painting some magnolia blossoms, and I'll show you the difference on cold press versus hot press paper. So, you guys voted for the magnolia blossoms, so are you ready? Let's get to painting. So we just recently got back from a road trip. We drove out to see our grandkids in South Carolina. Of course, our son and daughter-in-law were part of that visit, and we really just had a great time. And of course, we brought Leo. Here he is at a rest stop in Tennessee. This was such a beautiful stop. Tennessee's a very pretty state. Leo is standing by some Hellebores, which is one of the items that I put up on my community post for you guys to vote for to paint. And instead of these Hellebores, actually, you chose the magnolia blossoms and this tree. Look at how fascinating that is. I mean, to me in Colorado, we don't have these trees that bloom like this. We have some cherry trees and pear trees that bloom, but nothing like this. This is just astounding. And these flowers, if you've never seen them, they're as big as my palm. They are really lovely. They don't really have a fragrance. But they are quite lovely, and my pictures unfortunately are not very good quality, but we're going to try and paint a couple of magnolia blossoms today, one on the hot press paper and one on cold press, and we can compare the overall look. I've got a quinacridone gold, opera rose. This one is actually Mary blue, potter's pink. And then we have more Holbein watercolors here, a Mars Violet, Perylene Maroon, Green Earth, and this one is I can't read my writing, this is a Daniel Smith Indigo, and I think this one is, Mission Gold, Permanent Red Deep, excuse me. So, yes, can't read my own handwriting. Never can. Anyway, let's take a look at these papers. So when you're working with a cold press watercolor paper for the first time, or a hot press for that matter, what you're going to notice is that the textures are very different. Now, 100% cotton watercolor paper is so good to use because the cotton fibers will absorb the watercolor and allow it to do what it's meant to do. And these papers are also sized in a certain way that enable us to work with watercolor the way that it's intended. Now, you can also use a cellulose paper that will also be sized and it will also be the same weight, but it will act just a little bit differently. And I think that if you are learning watercolor, I really think you should learn on 100% cotton paper. So a lot of times we don't do that because the price can be a little bit shocking when we're first starting out. But these are really affordable, and I've got a coupon. I'll put everything down in the description because you can purchase these from Meeden with a coupon that they were generous enough to share. And then you'll be able to get a little discount on it. I'll also put my link, my Amazon link to these because if you'd rather just shop while you're shopping on Amazon, you can do that as well. And all of those links will be affiliate. However, it will not increase the cost to you at all. What it will do is it'll help my channel, which is much appreciated. I'll thank you in advance for that, because what it will do is it will enable me to continue to purchase things like these watercolors, and if I were to purchase some watercolor paper, things like that, then I can definitely show them to you on this channel. Any monetary interaction that you have with my channel goes directly back into the channel. It's kind of like public radio or public TV. Your donations really do help. I also have memberships available on my channel. If that's something that interests you, you could become a patron and have a little bit more access and some greater benefits. So that's all down in the description as well. So first of all, let's take a look at cold press watercolor paper. I'm just going to open these smaller ones here. These are 5x7 size. The other size that it comes in is a 10x7, and then they have a size that's even bigger than that. And I will put all that information in text across the screen. So you can, this is a nice size, because if you divide it in half, then you've got two 5x7s. See, this is really nice, so that if you're just buying standard frames for something, you want to just paint some small pictures, that's a really great way to do it, because really you're getting twice the amount of paper as you would in one of these. So each paper pack has 20 sheets in it. And what we're going to do, let me put my scissors away. Let's take a look at the hot press paper first. So this pink sheet here is just a protective sheet that goes on top. And this is a block. This is what a watercolor block looks like. It's got this gum adhesive to hold the papers together all the way around it. And then there's a little space up here. I think you can maybe catch that in the light. There's a little space. So what we're going to do is put something inside. We'll just take off this cover sheet here that protects the first page. When we're all done with our painting, we can just put something inside here, like a palette knife or a paper remover. There's separators you can get. I'm just looking over here to see if I see mine, and I don't. You can also use like a bone folder, anything like this. You just put that in there in between, and then you run that all the way around, and you can take your paper off. So here is the cold press. Let's take this paper off here. This is the same thing, a protective little paper. You can certainly use these to write your grocery list on, so, you know, it's a good sheet of paper. Don't throw it away. Here we have the same situation with the gum going all the way around, the adhesive to hold these in, and also this little space in the center top where you can insert the separator and just get that paper right off of there. So can you see, let me go ahead and pull these up a little bit closer to the camera here. Can you see the difference in the texture? The cold press is going to have a lot more texture on it than the hot press, excuse me. Hot press is very, very smooth. You'll have the same interaction with the cold press when you're working with watercolor, with the wetness of it. But this is going to give you a little bit more capability in brush technique, and also a little bit more luminosity, because what it does with that texture is it gives little bumps and rivulets for all the light to bounce back in different directions. It's very subtle, but I'm going to show you a little comparison here, and you'll be able to tell the difference, how the hot press watercolor, I actually prefer it for gouache and colored pencil, because it's very, very soft, it's very smooth, and it's almost like a Bristol vellum, if you're familiar with that paper. And this has definitely got some texture going on to it. So when you're using colored pencil, this one will really show up. Every bump and every rivulet in the paper will show up, but then over here it's nice and smooth, and you can really put on a lot of layers. So let's take a look at drawing magnolias. Now I've got a few here in my photos, and these magnolia trees were just fascinating. So I was just so enamored with them that I thought we could work on some of these blossoms, because they really are beautiful. But I think we can still have some fun and draw something really good here. These are kind of fun. I got some Blackwing pencils. I am a sucker for any kind of rock and roll memorabilia, and these are Beatles pencils. So check these out. They say Blackwing on one side, and on the other side we have listen to the music playing in your head. Yeah, there will be an answer. Don't carry the world upon your shoulders, and don't you know it's going to be all right. I like this one because it's one of my favorite Beatles songs. So let me just put these back. Beautiful case, by the way, for these Blackwing pencils. These are really nice pencils. They, I think they have like part wax in them or something, so they're very smooth and luxurious. But this was definitely a splurge for me, but I wanted to share them with you because I thought they were really kind of fun. So I'll set those aside for now, and you can also get refill erasers for these things. My mother used to use these all the time, and they're great pencils. These little erasers are, I think they're these. I think it's something like this, a little vinyl eraser, and you can get refills for them when this eraser goes down. You can just pop in a new one, so that's kind of cool. Let me just get this sharpened, and then we can get to drawing. This quote, of course, is from the Beatles song, "All You Need Is Love," And I just think that's a really nice sentiment. Here's the cropped version of the photo that I took that we're going to use. We're just going to focus on this one blossom here. And I know that the photo is not very good quality, and I do apologize for that, but I will go ahead and put a link to it. It'll be a Dropbox link, and you can download that photo. And then if you are fortunate enough to have a program like Photoshop, you can go in and adjust it and make it a much better photo than I can on my iPhone. Let's see here. What else do I want to tell you? Oh, these Blackwing pencils. This is kind of cool. Like I mentioned, these are the Beatles. This is the Beatles version. They're the volumes set, and I guess each quarter they release a new limited edition pencil celebrating the people, events, and places that have defined our creative culture. And of course, the Beatles, that is something that I dearly love. So yeah, I snapped these up, and I know that they're a big extravagant luxury for me, but they're really nice pencils, and I really like them. The graphite in here is a firm graphite, and I do believe, I remember reading that there's wax in there too. So they're very soft. They're really just a joy to draw with, and like I said, you can take that eraser out and replace it, because they do sell those erasers individually. So let's see here. As we're sketching this out, let me tell you a little bit about these blocks of paper here. The first one that we're going to sketch on is the hot press. And just putting in the bare minimum of what we need here for the flower. Now, I'm making my lines pretty light, but I think you guys can see them pretty well. You'll notice in the upper left-hand corner of the screen there are two very vibrant, very loose paintings. I was just kind of playing around to see how the paper acted, because I kind of wanted to reacquaint myself with it. I have used this Meeden paper before. I've only used the cold press before though, and I loved it. So this is my first experience with their hot press paper. It's very, very nice. I typically use Arch's hot press for my colored pencil drawings, but now that I've sketched on this, just even this slight amount, I am really looking forward to trying some colored pencil drawings on this hot press paper. Now, if you are a botanical artist, or like I said, really like to use detailed work, hot press paper is really going to be for you. So you'll see how the paint kind of lays down on here. It has a tendency to just kind of sit on top for a little bit, more so than it would with a regular, than it would with a cold press cotton paper. Hot press is just a little bit different. It's kind of slippery would be the way that I would describe it, but nothing like a Yupo paper, nothing like that. It's not like painting on like a Mylar or anything like that. It's just different enough. And I think you can see kind of when I lift the paintbrush up, when I end the stroke, you can kind of see how there's some beading that happens there. I get little air bubbles kind of. And they go away. Everything works out just fine. When you're doing things like that technique I'm doing now, where I had the water and brought it down to the pigment, things will interact and mix just a little bit differently. And the only way that I can explain it to you is really that you'll just be best off trying it for yourself to see if it's something that you like. Now, if you have been very frustrated with the texture of cold press paper, I do recommend trying some hot press, because maybe that's the thing that you as an artist are looking for to make your life easier. Each paper works for each painting style. I like to use a lot of rough press paper because it has even more of a tooth. It's got more texture, and I love my dry brush technique. I love taking the side of the brush and stroking it across the paper just barely, so that the pigment just barely touches the peaks of the texture in the paper. And that is something that can really best be achieved on rough press. So if you're doing a lot of landscapes and you want to capture the reflections in water, or a snow-covered mountain, or some flowers off in a field that are very distant, if you use dry brush technique over rough press paper, that's going to be very, very lovely. There's a lot of different things, of course, that you can paint on any type of watercolor paper. For portraits, if you have a very light, delicate hand and you want to get a lot of these details in, then the hot press paper is definitely one I would recommend for you. But the cold press paper is pretty much a universal choice, and some brands have even smoother cold press than others. But this one is probably, I think it is very much akin to the Strathmore cold press cotton paper, the one in the ready cut sheets. But I do like this one better. Rumor has it this is the Bao paper that is the professional paper. So if you've used that, then you'll know what this is like. It's, I think, worth every penny. This paper is just such a dream to work on, and the price point, you really just can't beat it. I've been very, very pleased. I usually use the B watercolor paper because it comes in a journal format. If this one came in a journal format, I would definitely use that as well. I do like keeping my paintings just in a journal because it's kind of like a ready-made bound book that I can, you know, look through in the years to come and remember where I was whenever I painted that certain piece. That's just something that I remember doing with my mom. I remember looking through all of her art books and just really loving turning the pages and having her tell me about the paintings. So that is something that, to me, art needs to be in a journal. So you know, that's just me. If you want to do it differently, of course you can. And these come off the block fairly easily. You do have to be careful though. I did tear one of them when I was taking them off because I was using that metal palette knife. I really wish I could have found my my separator. I think it's over in the other box on my desk, not the one I was looking at. But it's very much like a bone folder. It's just not as thick. It's a leaf. You may have seen those. I got mine with a pack of bao hung watercolor paper, and I really like it. It's kind of like a shaped like a twisted leaf that's fairly thin, or a big wide fat letter opener that's plastic, and so it has a very smooth edge. The other risk that you take about using a metal palette knife to separate your papers from the block is that you can leave a metal scratch mark on the paper. Not all papers do it, but some do, and when because the palette knife edge is so sharp, you know, you're not going to cut your finger, but it is a pretty sharp edge. You can get off center between the two pages and then kind of splice into your paper a little bit. So that's something that can happen, and it has happened several times with me. In fact, it did happen here on one of these paintings that I removed today. As I continue painting here, I think you might be able to see that in some ways, hot press paper might be preferred. So, for instance, in capturing light, in some ways it is easier to capture light, real high highlights on hot press paper, and simply because your paint is going to stay put a little bit more. Now, all of these things come with a huge asterisk that, yes, you can do all of these things on both papers, but there is a difference when you're working with one versus the other, and you do get a different technique. And those of you who have painted for quite a while know that you probably have a preference of one over the other. Like I said, for me personally, hot press would be my choice mainly for colored pencil, but this was really joyful to paint on, and I was very impressed that there wasn't much of a subtraction from the luminescence that watercolor imparts. You know, that's one of the things I really love about this medium is how translucent it is, and when that light bounces off the paper and bounces back to your eye through those watercolor pigments, that's how we get that wonderful luminescence of watercolor. And most of the hot press paper that I have used is Arches, and it is a little bit of a softer texture than this. It's just got a little more of a feel to it. That hot press paper tends to make watercolors look flat in comparison to their cold press brand. So we'll compare that at the end here, and you guys can tell me in the comments what you think if the hot press looks a little more flat than the cold press version of this Magnolia. It might be a little bit hard to tell on the monitor, but I think there's enough of a difference that you guys will be able to definitely pick up some differences. So let's see, some of the other differences are the edges. When you're blending pigments and doing wet on wet or letting things you know, migrate and move across the page, hot press paper, they're not going to do that like they will on cold press paper. So you're going to end up with a lot more hard edges here. That's not a bad thing, it's just a different style. And if you can adapt the way that you paint so that you can really appreciate and apply these features of any art medium, really, of this particular paper, though, is what we're talking about here today. If you can really learn to adapt your style to include the characteristics of this paper, then I think it will make you a more well-versed artist. I do recommend getting one of each. I recommend getting a hot press and a cold press, and as I was looking, I saw on the screen roll by, or excuse me, the scrolling on the screen, the sizes of paper that are available. They have a cute little mini size that's only 3 inches by 4 inches. So if you wanted to just sample it, you could go that way. I think the 5x7 size is so nice because it's so portable and so easy. You could throw it in your car with a palette of paints and a pencil and just be good to go. Then you can create a little masterpiece while you're just sitting in your car waiting for, you know, picking up the kids from school or waiting for your grocery pickup. If you guys do that, I certainly do. Anything that will get you painting at the spur of a moment, it really helps to take that pressure off, I think, because if you go through your day and you think, okay, I'm going to paint at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I'll have this time. And then you're thinking about that all day, and then when 3 o'clock rolls around, you sit down and you're looking at a blank piece of paper and, oh my gosh, what am I going to paint? So if you have the ability to paint at any moment's notice, a 5x7 pad like this, carry it with you, put it in your purse, put it in your briefcase, pull it out, draw on it whenever you see something that catches your eye. If you've got enough luxury in your life to where you can have that kind of flexibility with your time, take advantage of it. Don't wait for, you know, for a certain schedule. The muse needs to hit when the muse hits. But I know that that's not a reality for a lot of people, and I don't want to make you feel that, you know, you have to do things a certain way. That the entire process of art is certainly meant to fit in your day, in your schedule, and certainly you guys can control all of that. But just giving you some of the tips from my personal experience here. So going back to this hot press paper, I really like the feel of these brushes on the paper. I think any brush, to be honest, is really quite nice on a hot press paper. But these Taklon brushes, nylon fiber brushes, whatever they are, they're definitely a man-made filament. They work very, very well. They're not too slippery. I'm able to control the paint very well. You can see we can pull that pigment up, move things around. Now let's give this another dry, and then we'll come back and see where we stand with it. So I'm really liking this one, and I think it's just about finished. I'm going to set it aside because, you know me, I might tweak it. I might do some other things because I think I'm done, but I may not be. But let me just get this other one drawn here, and then we will be right back to start painting on the cold press paper. This part will be sped up, but I think you can see right off how different the textures are when you're sketching on them. This one has a tendency to skip and bob around, and that is definitely because of the tooth or texture of the paper. And of course, if you were using rough press paper, it would even be more so. It's certainly not so rough that you can't sketch on it. In fact, it's absolutely fine. It's a lovely texture. I think you'll notice when the paint goes down here, it's a little bit different than it was on the hot press. Now, many of you are saying, well, yeah, that's what it always looks like because you've always used cold press paper. But remember the little bubbles we had, or how the paint kind of looked like it sat on top a little bit more so with the hot press paper? Well, it does not do that here with the cold press. The textures of the paper really help that paint to just kind of find its home and work its way in. Both of the papers, like I said, are 100% cotton. So see how when we are applying water, and I know the water's not clean, but that's quite all right for what I'm doing here, and bringing the water down to the pigment, you can see how we can get a really nice blend. Let's go ahead. Oh, I left a petal off over here. Let me go ahead and put that one back in. There's just a little extra petal hiding back there. What we can also be aware to look forward to here on this particular version of the flower is that adding pigment, dropping it in, it will create those softer edges. Both papers were very easy to lift off. I was very happy about that. What else can I tell you about this one? You know, this is just pretty straightforward because I think most of you probably have used cold press paper. And the thing that I really like about this Meeden paper is it is an excellent quality, you guys. And in this section of the flower right here where I'm putting the Potter's Pink down to create the vein line a little bit, the center vein line, you can really see how these paints blend and move together. So we'll just continue with this Potter's Pink a little bit and just dropping in the pigment and then pushing it around to where I want it. This is such a joy, and it was the same level of joy working with the hot press paper. It really was. You know, I keep saying that I use it mainly for colored pencil, and I do, but it is really nice to paint on. If you really are curious about hot press paper and are looking to try it, I would definitely say yes, try this Meeden because, like I said, it's affordable, and I don't think you would be disappointed at all. It's something different and a lot of fun to play with. Now watch what happens though when I go in and make the stem here. Now this this is a wet area that's touching another wet area, so you can really see the beautiful flow that happens as these colors merge. This paper just performs exactly like every other professional paper that you would expect. See how that stem color, the Perylene Maroon, is merging into the leaf there, the petal at the bottom. I just thought that was so lovely, and then you're able to go in and even drop in more pigment and have them continue to play together. I mean, this paper will do everything that you expect it to do. Everything that you ask of it, it will perform, and it will perform beautifully. This paper will give you no regrets. I certainly don't have any. The one caveat that I will remind you of is to be very careful when you remove it from the block. That is true of all papers that are on blocks. The block is so convenient to use because you don't have to stretch and mount your watercolor paper. It's already down. It's going to have very little warping. You're going to be able to put on tons of water. I really like using the blocks. But if you wanted to go ahead and go to the trouble and mount, go ahead and stretch and mount your watercolor paper, you certainly could do that. But this block will save you that step. You are limited in size choice. That would be the negative there. But, the sizes are so common and they're great, like I said, for standard size frames. So you would have no issues being able to gift this to someone or make a print from it and sell it in your Etsy shop. You certainly could do all of those things very easily with these standard sized watercolor papers. Continuing on with the progress of the flower here, I'm going to take a break from this particular step and give it a little shot with the heat tool so that I can kind of fix what I've got going here. A heat tool is another really good thing for you to use if you don't have one already, because watercolor will continue to do whatever it wants to do as long as there is water or a wet path for it to travel on. You can use your heat tool to freeze moments in time. If you really like the progress where something is in your painting, you can put a heat tool on it and guarantee that it won't travel any further. These brushes are performing very, very well on the cold press paper also. I've gone to a much smaller round brush. I think I only used a couple brushes for both of these paintings. They don't have sizes on them, but I would say it was either a round 6 or an 8, and then this one might be a 2 or a 3. I'm just kind of going in and getting a little bit more of the detail going here. The colors, let's talk about some of the paints I'm using just for grins. The brightest pink there I've got is a Holbein Opera Pink, and then I've got a My Mary Blue Potter's Pink. I've also used a Holbein Perylene Maroon and a Mars Violet, and then the Daniel Smith Indigo, and also a Mission Gold Permanent Red Deep. Those are the colors that I used in this, and I really love the way that Perylene Maroon and the Mars Violet work together to create that unique deep burgundy color of the Magnolia stem. I thought that really was a nice color match. So if you're interested in those paints, those are some really good ones to get. Of course, the Opera, I don't think it has any light fast rating, because typically that one is made with dyes, so they usually don't give that a light fast rating. Let's see here, just adding in some details on a little bit of this, going in on my palette with varying areas of darker purple to lighter pink. I do like mixing my palette that way because then I can choose from whatever side of that puddle that I'm working on to be able to get the right shade of the color that I want. So let's add a little bit more indigo to this here, and then you can see as I add the dark pigment around this leaf in front and pull it up into the leaves behind it, I call them leaves, but I mean petals, you can bring that front petal forward. So anything in your painting, if it's darker, it will recede. Lighter areas come forward. So that is a good tip for you to remember if you're trying to create something that has dimension in space. The dark colors will be in shadow. They will recede and go away from you as a viewer. The lighter colors or lighter values will come toward you, and you'll be able to create form and shape in that way. Just still mixing these colors, really enjoying getting in there. I'm sorry my head keeps getting in the shot a little bit here, but I was really trying to see up close. I didn't want to put these paints where I didn't want them, so I was trying to lean over my work a little bit and see what I was doing. You can see here as these colors mix and blend, they just are a little bit softer in nature in the blending than you have on a hot press paper. Anytime you're using cold press, you're going to be able to get really soft blends. That's why portraiture is so wonderful on cold press paper. Definitely, if you're just learning how to do portraits, I definitely recommend cotton paper for that, and I would recommend a cold press as well. And this Meeden paper would certainly be lovely for portraits as well. Anything that you paint, this paper is really a good go-to, a really good paper to have. And I think even if you're a seasoned artist, you would really appreciate this paper because it is really very nice. I'm very impressed with the price point and availability and all of the good things. This 5x7 size is just so nice to use because you can not be intimidated by this huge white piece of paper staring back at you and wondering how you're going to fill it. You can do little paintings like this, not take up too much of your time. Here we've spent maybe a half an hour together and we've already got 2 paintings complete at the end of this video. So think of that. If you wanted to carve out about a half hour of your day, you could definitely get a couple of paintings done if you are using smaller paper. It's just something that maybe if you were always introduced to the 9" by 12" size, maybe try a different size. Maybe that would be something that would just give you that kick to make your art fun and something new and something interesting. Let's see here. We are just about finished with this one. Let's go ahead and dry it again, and then we will see where we're at. Well, it looks like it's time to add a little bit of veining on this inner petal here, and then we can get some of the final details on this leaf. We're going to put some of this veining down here on this petal in front as well, and a little bit over on the right. Let's skip ahead to the end, and then we can see the comparison between the two. So here we are. We've got the hot press on the left and the cold press on the right, and you can kind of see on the hot press we get a little bit more hard edges, a little bit of backgrounds. That could be attributed to my painting style. But I do think it's very easy to capture the light on the hot press. Now with the cold press we have a lot more smooth blends, easy flows, and I think you can really see the layers in both of them very well. I really like using the hot press for some things, and I really love using the cold press for other things. So I think either way, you're going to be very happy with this paper. It is, like I said, 100% cotton and affordable. The sizes that are available in these blocks are really quite convenient, and the 5x7 size is really easy to frame. So let's go ahead and give these a signature, and then I think we can call it good for today, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel for more videos like this. And if you're interested in a little bit more where you can really grow your skills as an artist, maybe consider becoming a member. I've got a link in the description that will help explain all of the tiers available. And everyone have a really great week. We'll see you guys next time. Bye now.